Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 344. We are joined by David Welch here. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
I'm good. You have to lean in that far, I don't think. Nate will tell you.
I'll keep it.
Kind of started that off like the sweaty balls, you know. We go like, yeah, no, it's really good. It's really nice. We want to thank our sponsors, including David and his company, Altadis USA. You'll see the logos of some of their companies behind us, or some of their brands behind us. Monte Cristo above Nate, very loud and bright. And you have Romeo Julieta, you have H. Upman, Aging Room, which we are smoking an Aging Room tonight, a new one from them, the Concerto. So we'll get into that here momentarily. You see the new color on the box there, if you can see that on video there. But I want to thank their continued support for the cigars tonight, and every week or every episode we have a second cigar from them for part two. So we appreciate that support. I want to thank Tinderbox at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. They do carry the Aging Room line along with the Concerto currently. So they have the Nicaragua, some of the Bohème still, La Bohème. And also, obviously, Monte Cristo's, Romeo's, and H. Upman's, Trinidad's, Henry Clay, the Rebellious. Oh, that's a good smoke. Very good cigar. So we'll be talking about the Aging Room specifically tonight. But if you guys don't have a local brick and mortar, reach out to Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Always shipping to you if needed, something from the Altadis line or otherwise. Want to also thank BS Cigar Company for the gold and silver, also available at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. The gold's made by Plasencia, and the silver's made by Espinosa Cigars, all Nicaraguan throughout both of those. If you guys are looking for some swag to rock, you have buyjack.com/bourbon&bs. You got, Nate and I on the bookends here. We have BS 3/4 sleeves, different colors there. David is not sporting it. There's the website if you want to check that out, David. Buyjack.com/bourbon&bs. There's some other good swag.
Well played.
Is that the original? Is it? That's why we get it made by buyjack.com now, because it'll stay on there. That's the original. That is just a great t-shirt at this point. Nice. Vintage, the OG. And I want to thank all you guys also. Patreon.com/bourbon&bs podcast. That's where you can do the monthly support. We appreciate our continued supporters on that. If you want to do a one-time contribution for a bottle or just otherwise, Venmo @bourbon&bs is where you can find us there. And as always, any questions, put them on the comment feed, any comments. We are still watching mainly Facebook, but again, those videos do disappear after a few weeks. So you can find us on YouTube as well, and then also Spotify, iTunes, and all that good stuff on the audio after the fact. So check us out there. But like I said, it's fun to contribute to the conversation because we try to respond to as much as we can, and you guys can obviously talk amongst yourself as well. So want to start off with the cigar. I'm going to light it up if you want to tell us about it.
Yeah, so Aging Room, Nicaragua, Concerto. It's the third iteration of the Nicaragua line. Rafael Nadal, AJ Fernandez, Nicaraguan Puro, Criollo 98 hybrid wrapper, and all of the tobacco in this cigar is a minimum of 12 years old. So it's got some age, rounded edges, if you will. Not as strong as the orange label. I don't think it's as strong as the Sonata either. I've had this before a few times, and each time it's I'd say a little more pleasant than maybe the strength of some of those more fuller bodied smokes in the Aging Room line. So came out in July, all the same sizes as the others, same price point, nothing else. But yeah, the newest of the Nicaragua line.
Is that teal? What do we call that? Teal?
Yeah, that's teal. We didn't want to conflict with the AJ H. Upman, so it's slightly different than lighter. That. Yeah, it's a little bit lighter. It's more of a blue, and then the I think the AJ is more teal, I guess.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
The Aging Room, for those that don't know, Aging Room was Rafael Nadal, his brand, boutique brands.
Correct.
Boutique blends, boutique brands.
Boutique
blends. Yeah. Aging Room was his big brand, right? So, and he had different names for some of the blends at that time. And shoot, going back 10 years ago now?
It'll be 15 next year. So we're celebrating 15 years next year.
15 years ago, time flies. 15 years ago, started working with Altadis USA, got hired on, brought his brand with him, Aging Room, and has continued to grow that brand mainly through the efforts. One of the things that changed, I think, was brought it to AJ Fernandez.
Correct. Yeah,
and
he's
now
blended.
everything, including the original, is that all AJ or is it?
Correct.
Okay. So at one time that was not the case, and then I think the Nicaragua was the first real big effort with AJ Fernandez that got a lot of press for this brand.
Yeah,
through
one,
you guys.
number one cigar, and then the Sonata got number one in Cigar Snob, not aficionado. This just got a 94 rating.
Wow.
Last month, I believe. I believe it's this size. So very well, received from those who have smoked it so far. Like I said, I appreciate that it's not as strong as the other two. I think we needed something like that within this brand because it does have somewhat of a following within all, our brands.
It does.
So
Aging Room, for those that are big Smoking Ten event fans out there, you will notice that Aging Room uses the same font as the Smoking Ten event called Bleeding Cowboys. I don't know if you guys knew that. With all the flares. Have you noticed that, Sean? If you look at Aging Room, pay attention.
In the Smoking Tent event.
The font, same as Smoking Tent event with all the little flares coming off of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't. It was coincidence, actually.
Okay.
We found the font, and then later on, we looked at the humidor, and we're like, well, shit, we've seen that before. But, I mean, that's a brown. I mean, he did have Aging Room before 15 years ago. So, yeah. No, he was definitely first. Probably reached a larger audience with the font, but slightly. But yeah, fun fact for you guys there. All 12-year-old at least tobacco throughout.
Correct.
I did not know that.
Neither did I.
You don't publish that very much. You don't boast it.
No, it's not. It's actually not within, the technology that I use to actually place the orders. It's really just through Cigar Aficionado. Their spread that they did on this cigar kind of goes into the specific tobacco used, the age, and specific picking of the tobacco that Raphael wanted for this cigar. So,
okay.
What is the blend? Are you?
I just know Criollo hybrid 1998 wrapper, and then
Just
binder
Nicaraguan.
Nicaraguan binder and filler from AJ.
It's weird. AJ used to, I think we talked about it recently on the show. It's like AJ Fernandez used to put like proprietary, hybrid wrapper on his stuff when he was really kind of hitting the mainstream after the diesel stuff online and everything. And he's kind of gone away from that. A lot of it's a little bit more straightforward from him now. Whereas like Altadis, it's funny, like a lot of your stuff, when you pull down like the shelf talker built into like Romeo Julieta, it just says Nicaragua. Doesn't give you
I think
else.
that makes it more simple for a
Consumer.
the consumer, exactly, from a consumer standpoint, just using it, the general area where it's from versus the exact terminology of the
seed
leaves
strain,
used,
which
correct, all that.
leaf.
I think we went through a phase there when AJ was saying proprietary on some of his stuff. It was when it was getting bigger online where you could find all this information. So like you had people kind of nerding out and they wanted to know like, all this stuff. And AJ's like, no, I'm good. I'm going to hold back a little bit, make things a little more mysterious. And now I think it's got to a point where people do care, but to the general consumer, they don't as much. They don't need to know, as far as seed or the region or even like, is it Lajero? Is it whatever? They just want to know kind of the ballpark.
Before we went live, you had brought up a story about Michael Herklotz and talking about this. He did there's a clip that he puts out there every now and then. He goes, why is it when people smoke a cigar they really like? They want to know every single detail. When you sit there and listen to a song that you really like, do you give a shit what studio it was recorded in or, what mics they were using or what brand of guitar? No, you just like the song.
Yeah, I mean, it's different, but yeah, I can see that. Michael Herklotz is a trained musician too, so he kind of can speak to both sides of that.
As is Raphael.
As is Raphael, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. We did have a question from Jake Sanders, Crowned Heads out there in the audience there. Where did the brass knuckles come from for the logo? Do you know this?
I don't know this, actually. It's a great question.
Send out a text.
Yeah, let me text Raphael.
Yeah, we'll figure that out for you, Jake. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, maybe he has another, he's a classically trained musician. Maybe he had, some time on the
Rough
streets too. You know what I mean?
upbringing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good question. Sorry, we don't know that one. Well, we'll call the show then. Good night, guys. Nate, what do you think of this? Have you smoked this?
I've smoked one.
Okay,
I smoked one before. I think I made a mistake doing the deep V cut on it because it is a torpedo, and sometimes I like doing that V on that torpedo.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
This one it just pulls a little too easy, and I feel like it's smoking a little fast. So yes,
feel free.
Well, I'm not going to sit there and go, this isn't just right. Let me put it out and grab another, because these are what, $17-18 a piece. So not for you, for the general consumer. All right, I'm not being.
That's here nor there. We have
Sponsor the show there, Nate. Take advantage.
I appreciate that, but no, it was my mistake, so I'm going to live with it.
It does have an easier draw. I wouldn't say airy, but easier. Yes.
Yeah. So I would definitely do like a straight cut on it next time, and hopefully tighten that up just a little bit. But that's my doing. I would put this, so far I would say it's more of a medium body. Definitely not as full as the Nicaragua. Doesn't have any real spice on the palate that I'm getting. It's just very little woody, earthy, and there's kind of a leatheriness to it as well, like chewing on a baseball glove.
Rawlings. No, I would agree with the leather. That's I enjoy that note probably the most from this cigar. To what Nate said, I don't get a lot of pepper, which I can appreciate.
Can through the nose.
I think Raphael's always prided himself on a long ash construction wise.
Yeah, I can say that.
Just talking to him personally, he's discussed that kind of in depth with when he goes to a blend or when he's blending, and the time that he takes to construct and get things right. I can always appreciate the construction of all the aging room stuff is top tier. So,
and that's coming out of obviously, the AJ Fernandez stuff, which well known for good construction, good blends, obviously great tobacco.
Yeah.
So teaming up with him and his factories and just everything else it's been a big thing, I think, for Altadis in general. I think Raphael kind of brought that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are known for the Grupos de Maestros for a lot of your projects,
which has kind of taken somewhat of a backseat to just Raphael.
Yeah.
If you think of cigars in recent times, the big ones are going to be the 1935, maybe the H. Upman 180th, the Romeo 150th, the Monty 90th. Those are mostly Raphael and AJ Fernandez collaborations.
Yeah.
Now the 150th is different.
Are they still involved?
From my understanding, yeah, absolutely.
So
just not as much in the forefront with. We know that Raphael is doing a good job, and we want to give him the tools to give us successful.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I think the last I really saw that was boasting the Grupos de Maestros was the Plasencia blends with Monte Cristo Espada series.
Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of had it all over that. You guys had some good videos out there a few years back about how that group works with the different manufacturing factories and everything like that, as far as working with the different tobaccos and stuff. So, it's interesting to see the evolution of it. But I mean, a lot, Aging Room, not one of them, because it was kind of a boutique, kind of a brand. But I mean, when you see a lot of this new stuff, and you were sharing some of it with me this afternoon at the shop of some of the upcoming projects, but it's cool to see the strong move on the relevancy to the changing market in the cigar world, where we talked about other brands that have kind of stuck with their decades and decades of process, as far as their blends and everything else, and almost the failure to adapt to something
I think
changing.
We're constantly evolving, and
which Monte Cristo, Romeo, like
could have
easily
bread and butter
fallen
cigars.
If you hadn't come out and teamed up with like Plasencia or AJ.
I think the 1935 is a great example because it's so different from core Monte Cristo. I mean, you've got the classic and the white and some of these lighter cigars, and most of the guys who are smoking the white and the classic are not going to jump at a 1935 cigar just because of the look and the, it's stronger. But yeah, when you put that AJ name behind it and it gets some accolades, I think it's turning some heads.
I think when that cigar came out, the fact that it was an AJ collaboration is what drew me to it initially.
Which one?
1935.
Yeah. But anyone who knows me and goes, "Hey, what's your favorite cigar?" That one. That smoke. I wish it wasn't, everything's gone up. It's about a $20 smoke now for a Toro, but every now and then I go ahead and get one off the shelf, and every time I smoke it, I'm like, God, I love this cigar. I wish it wasn't $20.
Sometimes it's nice to have a favorite though that you can't smoke every day because then you might get tired of it. So it's nice to have a little bit of a special treat. Yeah, treat exactly. Yeah.
Same with bourbon. Like you've got and then you've got something a little more special.
Yeah, like tonight we've got the Old Forester, but it's a single barrel strength, and it's a store pick, which Old Forester does a lot of barrel picks all over the place. And we also have the Old Forester 100 proof, which is not call it their base, because 86 would be considered their base in my opinion. But 100 proof is it's an interesting offering from them, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through this part one. I like this cigar. It's a little more straightforward than, when you give the description of the age of the tobaccos and everything else that's going along with this project. It's a pretty, not one-dimensional, but it's just straightforward. It's not, I think the Sonata, if I'm going to compare kind of like the aging room line here, the Sonata, I think, was a little bit more nuanced, a little more subtle on a lot of the flavors coming out of this, where this is a little bit more like straightforward. I compare this when I smoked it. I've smoked a few of them, but it's kind of like a lightened up a little bit of the Nicaragua like itself. I think there's some similarities in the flavor for those two for me. I enjoy it. It's I agree with you guys on your notes on there. I don't get the pepper, but it's kind of like just a hint in the background. It's not super smooth. It's not bitey. I think there's just a little bit of something, like a little oomph there, but it's kind of in the background, which makes no sense to probably a lot of people, but
yeah, the only pepper note I get is through the nose, and it's at the tail end. So that's it.
A better way to describe it than I did, but you guys say leathery. I'm trying to. It's I hate earthy. I hate when you say earthy. I'm trying to.
Because it sounds dirty.
Nah.
I would just say kind of that quintessential tobacco.
It tastes like burning tobacco.
Yes,
yeah. No, it's a good cigar. You guys have, aging room across the board, or is it all the same price right now, other than like the one-offs?
So this
Concerto, the original, the Maduro, the Connecticut.
Yep, all 20 and 10 count boxes. Same Vitolas offered, and then the prices for each Vitola is the same
across the board,
with obviously the exception of the like La Boheme and some other items.
But yeah,
this core line is all the same.
Yeah.
Yep. And it can be I think some of the prices can be in that like $13 to $14 range depending on the size of this. So we wanted to keep it in the median price range for most of your cigar smokers. We didn't want to elevate it to a level that was out of the range of what we thought, and for that to get awards from the other ones at that price range, I think is pretty cool. So
I think it's a tick above the average, but not anywhere close to a high price point, right? You know, MSRP on this size, which is called I think this is the Torpedo. It's not the Maestro. It is the Maestro.
Yep.
What, $14.95?
Yeah, it's right around 15. Yep.
Yeah. $14.95 MSRP. So depending on your tobacco taxes or where you get them from, that's what you're looking at there.
Yeah, I think the Figurado gets up to maybe 16.
Yeah.
So, and even then, you're right at that median.
You have a Toro and you have a Robusto.
We have a Magnum, and then there's a Grande is not it's not a Torpedo. It's just your normal box press.
Are they all box pressed? They're all box pressed.
Yeah. Every core line Quattro is box pressed, and then like the La Boheme and stuff.
That's something that Raphael liked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of picked his brain on this project, seeing him last week and knowing I was doing the podcast. Just I like a box press. I I like the 1935 and the Diamante. I wish the Espada came in a box press. I think it'd be unique. But yeah, that was specifically designed for the smoking experience from Ralph, that he likes that.
Yeah. And I think this is one of those where when you talk about box presses, like we've talked about on the show before, is that you usually will either take a leaf out, if you will, or you put an extra leaf in there to try to make this shape. And because of the easier draw, I'd imagine this is a one less leaf.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Padron style of their,
Yeah.
1964s and 26s, where they have that box press. Keep that easy draw. You don't want to have a stiff draw, especially on a box press, in my opinion, because then there's no smoking experience at all. It's not fun.
Yeah, it's more of a rectangle, not a square. So that ring gauge is measured on the diameter of the cigar, not
Right.
the height of it. So yeah, it is clamping down a little bit. So yeah, I agree.
So what did you bring to drink with this little hat on it?
This is now this is a Old Forester single barrel strength store pick from Kentucky area, coming in right at 130.7 proof. I've had really good luck with these single barrel strengths. I like Old Forester. I like Brown Forman stuff. Typically this kind of stuff in Ohio, Nate looked it up, is roughly $80.
Yeah.
For a quality product, like I said, I've never had a bad experience with Old Forester single barrel stuff. So,
No. And even at the 130 proof, I'm trying to remember what the hottest I've had as far as.
There's some warmth there, but it's not menthol-y warmth in my opinion.
No, it's not menthol-y. I'd say there's like a kind of a dry, if there's anything close to that, it's like a dry eucalyptic, like kind of a sensation.
Just it's like that weird, like fresh.
Yeah, it almost like, I don't want to say it dries out my palate, but it kind of has a little bit of a drying effect, and I think that's where I'm getting that. Like when you say fresh, I'm saying like a kind of like a eucalyptic,
dry
but yeah, it's like
where
yeah. But it is. What do you think, Nate?
I do like this one. I'm gonna ask David to pass the bottle. I didn't get as big a pour the first time around as some people. But no, before we went live,
he was sipping on it before we started.
Before we went live, Sean Wilkinson in the garage has gotten a pour of it, and just nosing it, there was kind of this orange zest on the nose. And then what's really interesting for me on the palate, though, you do get that initial like caramel note right up front, and then once it goes down the hatch, like you get that warmth, you get that heat from the proof. And usually on a lot of bourbons that I have that are coming in at this proof point or anywhere near this, like that heat on the end is typically that's where it stops. But on this one, once that sensation of that heat goes away, there's this kind of roasted brown sugar that just sits on the back of the palate. So you think the heat's the last thing you taste, but then once it's gone, like all of a sudden you start getting those sugars back on the palate again.
I always think it's wild to get like a fruit on the nose and then the palate is just sugary, like that brown sugar, molasses.
I can see where I can see it. It's not sugary.
It's definitely like there's a viscosity though, which I like.
There is
like
viscosity
that, so
there.
I mean, it's got crazy legs on the glass. I feel like it definitely lingers, which in between pours, I like to continue to have that taste.
I'm gonna do.
You're gonna add a drop.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a drop of whiskey first.
Yeah. Well, and I think
part of a drop of water, because this is one for me. I've had this kind of sensation. That's what I'm kind of searching here. I've had this sensation, and water. It needs. I need to proof it down. No, I mean just for the flavor.
I get you. No, I mean I know Steve and I both. We've had some store picks or bar picks of Old Forester that were coming in right around the same proof, maybe 3 points here or there, and just overwhelming on the palate. Like so much spice and cinnamon and heat, and some of them are just not enjoyable, I think, to most drinkers because it's just trying to blow your palate out with heat. This is one of those, I think whoever picked this did a pretty good job. Like, all right, we know we're getting a barrel strength product. We know what we're going to get with that, but let's find something that's got a little bit more finesse, a little bit more flavor on the front end of it. Because I think that's going to be more approachable and enjoyable to most consumers.
I'm surprised to not get any of that like Brown Forman banana, you know.
I get that on the 1910. Which is what I love, because I talk about 1910 as like Banana Foster. That's the double oaked, banana cream sweetness on the palate. That's why I love that one. That one also comes in at 93 proof, which is the second lowest of the Whiskey Row series that they do. But that's my favorite of that Whiskey Row series. So the closest thing you can get to this that's on the shelf all the time from them is going to be the 1920, which comes in at 115 proof.
Yeah, I like the 1920 as a shelfer and like a go-to bottle that's always there. So if I were to guess the proof, I mean, if you guys were to guess the proof not knowing what it was, I don't know that I would say above 125. Maybe that's just my palate or my my adaptation to bourbon, but I don't think it drinks as hot as it says. But have you tried it with the water?
I have, and it did exactly what I wanted. Where's this one here? Yeah, Jake is still listening out there. There's nothing sweet or approachable about Old Forester barrel strength barrel picks in his mind. All are hot as fuck because they pull them from the climate controlled warehouse in Louisville. Which when
we've been there,
I know, and it was actually they were 3 years into it.
Yeah,
nothing had been picked from there.
Yeah, so that climate control warehouse, I believe, holds 1,000 barrels. We went in on year 3, which I believe was 21. So that was the third year that they had done that, and they'd put away 250 barrels each year into that. And at the time, they had no idea what they were going to do with them because they didn't know how they were going to age. Because your normal rick house,
they were brand new barrels. They weren't already aged in another.
Correct.
Okay.
So when we went and visited those, I think I don't think they put any away in 2020 because of COVID. So you had 250 barrels from 21, and then 250 from 19, and 250 from 18, and that's all that was in that climate controlled rick house at that time.
7 years old ish now. If people were to go grab one.
They're still.
But like I said, they didn't know what they were going to do with it, when something was going to come of it, because your normal rick house, the whiskey's going to age based on the season. It gets really hot, the barrel's going to expand, the whiskey's going to penetrate into the staves. It gets really cold in the winter, it's going to squeeze all that out again, and you kind of need that expansion and contraction to pull the color and flavor and stuff from the barrel. So with the climate control, it wasn't cold in there. It was just, you could live in there and watch TV. It was comfortable.
But it wasn't going through the four
you're not going through the expansion and contraction like it's being seasoned. So that's why it was kind of an experiment, just to see what was going to happen from it. But at the same time, once they figure out what's coming from there, now it gives them something that,
like a baseline to
they know what they should expect.
I would encourage you guys, if you pour another glass of this one, put a couple drops of water. Might need a little, or just one drop in that one. I literally took 4 drops. That's more than I even had.
I'm not gonna pour it whole thing.
But that, and maybe add a little bit of whiskey to it, because it takes away whatever I didn't like. The approachable, what we were talking about, the approachable aspect of it is not for me. You're pushing in that one, Nate, based on your comments. For me, excuse me, it's when you do a barrel pick, there are times where I feel like stores or bars that do barrel picks, you sip on, you're like, so they were going for something that's different. This one for me was borderline that, because of the finish on it. It's kind of like, no, I don't think I want to order another one of these. But putting just, literally maybe 4 drops off of my finger of water into it.
I mean, just the nose, I feel like there's a lot more.
It opens it up. It kind of it softens it just the right amount for me. I mean, this is the drinkability is much better for me. Just a slight bit of water for me. Now it changes the experience. So you might
doesn't
like
have
one
that
of the
little edge.
Man, it's got an edge, yeah. It's like without the water,
Yeah.
like just straight out of the bottle, it has an edge on it on the back end for me. And it's almost like, all right, this is a sipper only because I kind of need to regroup after each sip.
I definitely get more sweetness on the nose.
So I'm telling you, you sip on
It
it.
opens it up just.
While you guys sip on that, I did get an answer on the brass knuckles, and this is a cut and paste from Cigar Snob. Reached out to Bentley on this one.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you, Josh.
He cut and paste. There's a story on the brass knuckles on the aging room. So the brass knuckles are tied to the first blend. At Tabacalera Palma, everyone that works there has always had the ability to get any cigar they want and as many as they want throughout the day. But when it came to this new blend, we just didn't have enough. So we told the guys, please don't smoke this one. In spite of this, the inventory kept dropping and dropping, and we really did not have enough of that tobacco to make more. So there was this one guy who was a table supervisor at the factory, and he always carried around one of these brass knuckles. And he'd always go from table to table wearing the brass knuckles. Scary in a sense. Well, one day we go into the aging room to check the inventory of the new blend, and right next to them, we find the brass knuckles. Now we knew who was smoking these limited cigars. So we decided to leave the brass knuckles next to the cigars as a symbol to stay away from these. Then later, when it was time to come up with the packaging for the aging room, we incorporated the brass knuckles, making it a very unique design. Some people have thought that it means that the cigars are strong or something like that, but it isn't about that. It's really just based on that story. You always like a good story, right?
And with Raphael, there's always a story
There's
behind.
always a story.
Yep.
And they're on the band 4 times.
Yeah. So stay away from it. Yeah. Got some comments about Old Forester here. Have you any of you guys made the 1915? He says the 1910 Old Forester is fantastic, as is the 1920, and then you blend them.
Oh. I've had the 1924. That's the 10-year, and very impressed with that. It was.
I have not yet been able to try that. My store's gotten that twice.
I was gonna say it's not hard to come or not easy to come.
Yeah,
by.
we've
Which
got
one?
the
1924. Their 10-year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's much more expensive.
The 117
it's
series.
like $115.
The 117 series. I've also been fortunate enough to grab a few of those, and they're only in 375 milliliter bottles, but they're good. I mean, typically at the distillery, I've been lucky enough to find a few out in the wild, if you will. But I like those ones too. They're very specific. The rye they put out was somewhere close to 10 years. They did an extra old and then an extra old. They did the Angel Share. So all of which were good. I mean, it's cool to have something unique like that, and that Old Forester is doing something in a smaller bottle that I don't see any other brands putting out that size, at least in a different thing. You know, you can get a 375 of Buffalo Trace or Blanton's or any of these other ones, but it's not a different.
Doing it?
Woodford.
Woodford with the double oak.
Oh, the double, yeah.
Right.
No,
that's what they were doing.
Wasn't double because we've had the double at the store. It was the one. It was kind of in the line of the WB Saffel, where it was only that.
No, they did. I think originally though.
Originally
the double oak was only available at the distillery in the 375.
Yeah, and then now it's one of those where it comes out like once a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had it at our store.
Kind of like the Grenade from Elijah Craig. You ever seen the Grenade?
Uh-uh.
It's a little barrel.
Oh, yes.
125 proof. And
yes, I have.
It's a specific distillery only release that's only, a small 375, but it's 125 proof, Elijah Craig. And you can't find it on the shelf. It's distillery only. So, but
it gives you a reason to go down there, not just to stand in line and get bottles you can resell.
Yeah.
It's something that you can enjoy.
Yeah, I remember that Woodford double originally. It was distillery only, and it was $50 for a 375,
which at the time was a lot.
Yeah. Now the double comes in maybe a 700, and it's $200 retail when it's out in the market.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Retail.
That's stupid.
Do you know the like specs behind it? Like when they say double, it means it's aged and then it's
Double
poured
finished, I think.
poured
Right?
into a new
So-
barrel and
well,
then a new
it's-
barrel
it-
again.
It's finished, so it's aged in one barrel and
Yep.
then finished in 2 more.
Okay.
So they do the double oak process just like they do
Yeah.
with the double oak, and then they dump it into another barrel for that again.
Do you
So-
know? Do you know the time on that? Like
Usually when they
couple
do,
like 12 months. or
usually they
something?
do like 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, not 12 usually.
Yeah.
So when they did the extra old, it was, from my understanding, 1910 or 1920, and then they poured it into a new barrel for somewhere close to like 2 years,
Sheesh.
which is kind of like a double oak, if you will, but
Sure,
just
yeah.
overly
Yeah.
oaking it.
That's a double barreling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. What else do we need to know about the aging room project here of the Concerto? Anything? We talked about, and I don't know if you can release it, but I mean, we talked about there is something new coming from aging room in the works.
Yep.
Which is exciting on regular production, right?
No.
No, that was the limited one we were
Yeah,
talking about.
yep.
1,000 boxes or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So always working on something else. You guys have some other new stuff coming out.
Correct.
David will also be at the primary dinner that will be posted tomorrow, but it's for October 16th at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. We're going to be featuring some special sizes of cigars, some limited stuff, something from Monte Cristo, something from Henry Clay, some
Romeo.
other goodies.
Romeo.
Can't talk about it. And some special gifts for the attendees of that event. But those tickets will be going on sale as early as tomorrow, as late as Friday. And so we're happy to have you guys be a part of that again.
40-ish seats available. So
40-ish seats
Yep.
available, and ticket price will be $75. Details subject to change. But yeah, so we're going to have, and we're not featuring Old Forester this year with you guys. It's actually going to be an Irish,
Oh, that'll be unique.
Slain Irish whiskey, along with a welcome cocktail. So you guys can come by the shop or call Tinderbox at Easton and secure your spot for that as soon as the details are released. So again, appreciate you guys supporting us with that, because you do have some good goodies again.
Yeah, there will be some goodies
some fun
available,
stuff.
and yep, it'll be a good night.
Well worth the value. Let's slide right into the part, and I'm going to, after this one, I'm going to pour the Old Forester 100 proof, and we'll
Wanna
kind of
mix
roll
it?
into.
See what happens.
I mean, I'll do 100, and then maybe
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
do a little cocktail of a whiskey and a whiskey. Poor man's pappy. Proof down your 130 proof. This is where we do the ratings: whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing. So this is a rating out of 10. What's that?
The poor man's pappy, 12-year in the
Mhm.
107.
Yeah, this is the 100 proof, for the record, is $23.99. I mean, it's about a $20 bottle here. So
Yeah.
we're dealing with something that
It's a great bottle.
should be bottom shelf almost. And Old Forester, I think, knocks it out of the park with almost everything they put their name on.
So you might know the answer to this. The mint julep mix that they do, is that with this 100 proof
probably 86.
or the 86?
Well, I think it comes in at 70 proof in the bottle.
Oh, okay, so it's
Like in the bottle,
Yeah.
it comes in at 70 proof.
Gotcha.
So whatever they're mixing, I mean, they know that ratio. I mean, the Old Forester 86 and 100 proof, the difference is the proof.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially it.
You really have to watch those like pre-made cocktails like that. But they're coming in at 70 proof. 'Cause you're like, this is light. And you're like, it's pretty much just normal bourbon.
Yeah.
You're 10 proof off.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think,
2 or 3 of those in your
Or
And-
drink a
and
bottle
you
in
have-
a night, and yeah.
and you have sugar in there.
Yeah.
Whiskey, cigar, and the pairing. 10 being the best, 3 different ratings. I'll invite anyone that wants to go first to go first.
I like the whiskey a lot. I've always been drawn towards barrel strength stuff. I think that's bourbon in its purest form. So as my bourbon drinking has progressed, I feel like I go more towards barrel strength stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna give the bourbon like an 8, 8.5. The cigar, I very much appreciate that it is not as strong as the Nicaragua. I think this brand, this this 3 blend with the Sonata and the Nicaragua needed something that wasn't as strong to get some of those consumers to try aging room without the punch that some of those other cigars provide.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. Like it's, you want to get new people smoking brands and blends that maybe they haven't tried before. And like I said, at the price point, it's not as much of a risk to take. I like this cigar. I would say the same, probably an 8.5. Just because I don't get a lot of that pepper until like you described on the very end. So I think they go well together. This isn't as strong to me as maybe Steve feels like it is, and that's just the difference in palate and in taste. So
sure, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I like to have like stronger pours.
That's you are. Right. Yeah, for sure.
So
Nate, how about you?
So very close to David there on the whiskey and the cigar. I'm an 8 on both. I think they're both solid picks. This type of proof is usually in my wheelhouse, kind of like with David. I love barrel strength stuff, but lately I've also been drinking stuff that's a little bit lower proof just to really enjoy that flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when it's lower proof, you can have more glasses. The cigar, I do enjoy the cigar, even though I prefer more heavier. Like I prefer the Nicaragua. I love that cigar. I love the flavor. I love the strength. This one would be great as like a first, maybe second cigar of the day for me.
A little light for you.
Because I normally do ramp up. As far as the pairing, for me, the pairing is interesting because knowing that this bottle was 130 and knowing Old Forester picks tend to be a little bit more on that spicier side. And I had smoked this cigar before and I knew it wasn't a full body, really strong, powerful cigar. I was very worried that this whiskey was going to overpower this cigar. Going whiskey to cigar, normally something this proof to any cigar kind of amplifies the spice on the palate or that tingle a little bit. It didn't do that for me. It was a smooth transition from whiskey to cigar. Going cigar to whiskey, there was a lot of sweetness that all of a sudden my palate was ready to enjoy from the whiskey that I didn't get just drinking the whiskey on its own.
That's good to hear.
So like whiskey an 8, cigar an 8, but I'm going to give the pairing an 8.5.
Ooh, curveball.
I want you to do a rating before water, after water, together.
The cigar without water?
Mm-hmm. Let's hear it. Honest opinion.
All right, so I'll do the cigar first on this one. The cigar, I'm a solid. It's what? All right. We'll get you on the mic here in a little bit. The Age Room Concerto, Nicaragua Concerto, 8, maybe 7.75. I like this cigar. Like I said, it's kind of a straightforward cigar. So my thing with the Aging Room portfolio, one of the key points to that, everything that I've had has smoked very well. Construction's on point. It's whether or not you like it. And so you have this range, and it's logical to a point that all of the blends are going to be the same price. I like that. But at the same time, if you're not a huge fan or it's not like your favorite, now you are, like I said, a tick above average. So you could smoke it and you might really like it. Well, man, this is worth the $14, $15. That's appropriately priced. Then you smoke something else. You're like, it's good. You know what I mean? I like it, but I can probably, even from the Altadis line, I can find something else that's also kind of medium. I call this a medium cigar. I can find something else that's medium that could be even $1 or $2 less if that's important to me. You know what I mean? This is one that I like. I will smoke again. It's not one that I'm going to run after. This is not a box buy for me. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, where I'm like kind of like a 7.75 on it because I like it. It's cool. I had no idea the 12-year-old tobacco. Like you hear that, it almost like kind of makes you want to like it even more because I appreciate that part of it. Of the line, this is towards the top, but not my favorite of the Aging Room line. So but that's going to happen, I think, as you guys smoke through a line and you're trying different stuff. Say you like the Aging Room Nicaragua had so much press. I think I liked the original even better than the Nicaragua personally.
how do you feel about like the non-avid cigar smoker coming into?
I think you're gonna like this a lot.
That's where I was.
And that's a good point. I think you're gonna like this cigar a lot. This is a medium-bodied cigar. This is like your almost for everyone type of cigar. So I think that you guys hit it on the head as far as in the middle. This is the in the middle of the aging room line, in my opinion. So I'll say that. So with the whiskey, with the single barrel that you brought, I'm an 8. It's too. You guys didn't say oaky. That's what I needed to tone down, I think, with it. I don't know the age of this, but it kind of reminded me like that the finish that I was trying to almost get away from to smooth out with a couple drops of water. It's almost like when I had some older pours that people have shared with me that are like, I'm talking like pushing like
too much
oak
wood
finish. Yeah, like it's almost like it was pushing some of those like I think 20-year-old like things that you're not supposed to be able to have that I've had people share with me that's like 20 years old or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it tastes like a gym floor.
And those oak tannins really coming out.
And that's what I think that's what that was on this is that at the end, that's what like that's a sensation. I don't know if that's because maybe there is extra age on this. I don't know, but it's
they don't
doesn't give an age statement.
Yeah, they don't do an age statement.
But that's where when I put just 4 drops of water in this pour that I'm drinking now, I think it kind of softened that a little bit. It didn't really just sit there like I need some water, I need something, all that stuff. So I did enjoy this a bit more. So without water, the bottle, I'll give that a 7.5. With water, 8.25 because I can appreciate the flavors more. Yeah. Sean?
Yeah. So cigar first, I enjoy it. I don't mind pepper on the retrohale. This is not bad at all. Like once I get first couple, you're always like, holy shit. But after that, you kind of get used to it, and I enjoy the flavor more. I'll give that an 8 as well. The Old Forester, it's got a little bit of heat, but I still like on the nose, like I mentioned earlier, I got the citrus, and on the front half, when you around the palate, it's very sweet, like sweeter than I expected. And then it's got a little bit of heat on the back, but it's not like I knew that was coming, and it's not some surprise like Nate does to me all the time. But
how does Nate surprise you all the time?
Oh, come on. When was the last time I poured you whiskey?
I don't know, but we need to do that soon because that was fun. Probably give that an 8 as well. The pairing for me, I'll probably give a 7.5. I mean, I was for the heat on the back end of the Old Forester and then the retrohale. I did it like before, like drinking that smoke. Holy shit, that just amplified everything for me. I was like,
yeah,
that's a little too much, but I didn't dilute it, so maybe that could have been different. I just took a pour of that 100 proof, and my God, I mean, just after drinking the higher end and then going that, there was like no burn. It was also, it's almost like you took the heat off of that and just and put all the sweetness in that one, and you can get everything from start to finish.
But this over ice, you're like, that's a nice cocktail. What's in it?
Yeah. I'm like, wait a
Whiskey.
minute.
Yeah,
And that's something you can get anywhere, right?
Dude, it's the Old Forester 100 proof is $23.99.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on the shelf all the time.
It's one of my favorite. Don't judge me, but like I call it like a daily sipper.
Yeah,
because it's not going to hurt your wallet too bad. And
that one's great for like old fashions. Like every time I get an old fashioned at a bar,
that's like, one of 3 bottles I typically recommend when someone comes in looking for a bottle for old fashioned. And one of the all 3 bottles I typically recommend. Good price point, 100 proof.
Yeah. Come to think of it, I do have that bottle, but I used to make bourbon chicken with chicken thighs. I was trying to find the cheapest bourbon I could get, and I just tried that. I drink it too. But
Old Forester 86 is even
good.
lighter, and it's just going to go down super smooth.
It's sweet.
But like,
there's a rye version of this too, right?
There's
yes,
an Old Forester rye.
There is an Old Forester rye that's 100 proof. Yep.
Which thank you for letting me
came
try all
back
this
into
stuff.
Ohio this year.
Appreciate it.
The Old Forester rye 100 proof had been out of Ohio for a couple of years, and now it's back.
Nice. I like the whole Old Forester, and again, pretty much anything with Old Forester on it, I'm enjoying. You know, I like the whole Whiskey Roast series. I've had a lot of good single barrel, the blue labels.
And they do this in the rye as well too, a single barrel strength rye. It's green. Those are obviously circulating around as store picks or OHLQ picks.
Yeah.
And those are good too. I mean, they're higher in proof typically, but I like ryes from time to time, and you get good ones. And
Absolutely.
So I like Old Forester. That's one of the brands that I've just over time kind of gravitated
Yeah.
towards, and I think it's a quality product at a.
I think
at a
they figured it
reason-
out by now.
Yeah. Couple years they've
Yeah.
been doing this. So.
I think they're going to make it.
Yeah. Well, they were one of the few distilleries that had the medicinal license to be
Yeah.
able to manufacture whiskey during Prohibition, which back then it had to be at least 110. That's why the 1920 series is 115, because they upped theirs above the standard back during Prohibition and made 115 proof.
Overachievers.
Yep.
You guys good to just roll in?
Yeah.
Throw up the topic then. Roll into part 2 here. This generation to the next. So I'm going to pull up what I wrote. This is something based off of what David had said when he came in the garage here. Gotta find it now, how I describe this. You were basically talking about how you and your late
My group.
30s, I'm mid 40s. A lot of our listeners are there. You know, you're kind of in the ballpark, but even if you're in, you know, your 50s, 60s, you're in your 30s, maybe 20s, you kind of have these different opinions of it. But let me, oh, there it was. So I put it as such. So those of us in our 30s, 40s, and around those ages are now in the middle of the current generations. We look at how our life compares to the previous generations, or at least what we think their lives were like at our ages. It's also interesting to hear about and see how the next generation looks like compared to how we look back at their age. How does it compare in your mind? What have we learned, and how are we different? Ray Cheshire had been like, can part 2 be any more complicated? It's a generational thing, I guess. He's older.
Got to read between the lines.
But you had brought up that, you know, David, like you and some of your friends, and you're 38, 37? 37. And you feel as though, like, right now it's kind of, there are certain things that are more important to your family, your group of friends, your age demographic that may not have been as important to the previous generation.
Exactly.
And kind of expand on what you mean by that.
Just as entering into my 30s, trying to put myself in the position of maybe my parents, and I know more than a few people that are looking at health and wellness and fitness and the quality in which our food is made. I know more than a few people that are getting fresh farm eggs from the farmer's market, or they're going to get raw honey from a farm somewhere. They're getting their meat, grass fed, grass raised, and trying to get away from the hormones and getting all this stuff, and also just taking a grasp on fitness in general. I don't ever remember maybe my parents or the people around me growing up being into fitness or wellness or health, or even considering maybe not going to the chain restaurants and going to some place that's like a one-off, that's you're getting a quality meal at a reasonable price, and that it came from the farm that's down the street or whatever it might be. And I feel like we've gotten to that point as a generation to where a lot of people are starting their own farms or raising their own chickens and making their own eggs and things of that nature. And like I said, I have a few friends and family members and things of that nature. My sister has cows. I know friends that have chickens, and you're getting that firsthand, straight from the source, I guess is the best way to put it, product versus being okay with whatever the grocery store puts on the shelf, if you will. Going back to fitness as well. I mean, I know people that at least in my circle of friends that are just into fitness and into wellness and in reflection and just being well, I guess is the only way to put it. I don't see that, or I can't even really.
In the previous generation,
like
your
previous
parents.
generation, it wasn't. I go back to, I mean, maybe like Arnold is a decent example, but like he really put fitness on the map in the 60s and 70s, and for a while there, I felt like it just wasn't wasn't in the forefront of people's family values. Like my family, my wife and I mean, we met at the gym. It's always been kind of part of our culture and our lifestyle to eat fairly healthy, to take care of our bodies, to try and get the best food into our children. The days of McDonald's Happy Meals and things of that nature, like I don't want to be a part of it. I just don't. I want my kids to eat as well as possible. And I see more people my age living sort of that homestead lifestyle where somebody or a place that you can go to get farm fresh eggs or get raw honey or get whatever it may be.
You didn't even brought up where you shop, even if you do go to a grocery store,
Correct.
like who goes to a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, which is changing also. But I mean, compared to your big chain ones, like in our area, Kroger, and their parent company obviously owns a lot of stuff nationwide. So I mean, you can even go that route of where am I shopping? Nate, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know
I think
you have some, I have some as well, but I want to go to you first.
Well, I think with the older generation, like our parents, like that was really pre fast food chain days. There weren't a whole lot of options for fast
When
food.
were your parents born?
My parents were born in the 50s.
Okay. David?
Mid 60s, 64.
60s. Mine's 40s. Sean? 40s. Okay.
So
Just to frame everything. Because
Yeah.
the decade or two obviously
Yeah.
makes a difference there.
But I mean, our my parents were born prior to fast food chains being chains. Like they may have had one or two stores in your local area that eventually maybe got bought up and became a chain. But most, they learned from their parents. Most of their meals they were making at home. Canning stuff. My dad helped my grandmother,
That's a great point.
have a little garden next to my dad's house, and that he was the one that was actually working the garden and growing the beans and all that stuff and
So I feel
harvesting.
like that kind of skipped a generation.
Yeah, and
Like that generation he's talking
I
about.
think there's a
they did
reason
more
for
of
that.
hands-on.
Yeah.
It kind of skipped a generation, and now I feel like
well, and then also from a work perspective, most of the jobs that they had then were you were on your feet. They were labor jobs.
Somewhere.
Most people, by the time my parents were adults, late 70s into the 80s, you didn't have office jobs behind a computer. Maybe you were at a typewriter, but you didn't have computer jobs. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have 1,000 channels on TV to sit and watch. So most of them were active during the day. My grandparents' generation were farmers. My dad was a UPS driver. So a lot of people back then, I think, had very active jobos. So that's part of the reason why you didn't have an obesity epidemic with those generations.
Those jobs still exist, though.
They do. But
Not to disagree. I mean, not to disagree with you. I'm just like kind of.
they're not as
glamorous.
Exactly.
People
Even back then, though, in the 60s, obviously you had those, and you have there's different levels of pride or whatever it might be you want to call it. But I mean, there were plenty of office jobs in the 60s.
I mean, being from Akron, like rubber capital, we
I was
had
gonna say
Bridgestone,
manufacturing.
Firestone, and
Yeah.
I mean, then we had like Ford and stamping plants,
and there were a lot of blue collar jobs,
Coke
but
plant,
in those businesses, there were also white collar jobs.
yeah, true.
And
Yeah,
what
you
were
did-
people
yeah,
aspiring to do?
Yeah, you did have your office manager jobs and stuff like that. And but like I remember my dad,
Executives.
my dad when he was at UPS, every now and then someone, one of his colleagues would like, hey, there's a management job open, Dave. Why don't you go for that? And my dad's like, no, we all hate those people. Why would I want to do that?
Again, that's different perspective.
But I mean,
Staying in your lane.
yeah. And then I think from that generation, like our generation, we grew up slightly before a lot of that technology, but then we watched all that technology come to be. And that's, now been such a part of our lives that it's hard for us to see a life without that kind of stuff. And so we've seen that transition from, a lot of labor jobs to a lot of office jobs where everyone wants to just sit down in front of a computer and, have a relax and, you're not pulling muscles sitting in front of a computer necessarily. And then I think because our generation grew up seeing, our parents And then we've seen what's happened when we have too much sitting behind a computer. I think that's why you're starting to see our kind of age group go back to, I kind of want to be more active. I kind of want to eat healthier. We had those phases in our lifetimes where we went to fast food joints all the time. We ate out at chain restaurants all the time. Or, my stepdad thought that Applebee's was a fancy restaurant, right?
It's a neighborhood place, man.
Yeah. But like, that's what we grew up with. But now we've seen the long-term effects of that. And we're like, yeah, I think I'd be better off, especially with especially with information. It's like, I'd be better. I feel like I'd be better off if I was, eating fresher ingredients. There was a time where you were growing your own food. There's not as much of that happening nowadays, like in your own property, because most people live in a development or a complex. They don't necessarily have room for a garden in their backyard to be able to grow enough food to feed their family. But there's like, they'll go to someone who will.
Yeah, I think
like
they're seeking that out.
They'll seek a farmer, they'll seek a butcher and be like, hey, I want to buy half a cow, throw it in the freezer.
Yeah,
and do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think with our group, we've seen how the previous generation did it. We've experienced like what the younger generation is doing as a constant. And we're like, yeah, let's go back. Let's rewind the clock just a little bit on some of that stuff.
I think first of all, I think that there's the things you guys have talked about, like what previous generations, like for you, Nate, canning things. Now you can just go to the store and buy that. I mean, that turned into a business. Canned vegetables, you know what I mean? Like you just sell it, nationwide, internationally. You just go and you buy it, canned, whatever, fruits too. That was a big thing. Did well for a while. Now you look back at it and you're like, well, that was a lot of high fructose corn syrup in those things to preserve it, yeah. Which the idea of canning something is you don't need the preservatives, but here we are. No, I agree, and I also disagree with a little bit. I think, the fitness stuff, there's always been something going on, right? I think there is something to be said. At one point, there were a lot of, if you talk about a two-parent household, I think you look at the American dream in a sense where you do well enough that only one person maybe has to work and the other person can stay home to do all this stuff, to cook and all that stuff. You want some of this? As you have single parent households, you have two parents working, who's doing what at that point? So I think, at least in this country, and I'd be interested to hear what Ray has to say about it. I mean, it got to the point that the dream is that you don't have to do all that stuff. And then from the business side of it is that you want to make something where you can afford to buy it from them, make it easy on you, and there you go. You have TV dinners, you have fast food, you have Applebee's was not necessarily a fancy place, but as it came into the smaller towns, it was something that it's like, holy crap, you can go in here for a pretty low price and get a really nice family dinner, and you're going out to eat. You're not going, you're not dropping hundreds of dollars. You're dropping, $40 and you just fed your family of 4 and it's a night out. Mm-hmm. From the fitness side, I mean, I look back at like the 80s, even like that was a big, like aerobics was a big thing, you know what I mean? But it all changes. It's the movements that are happening now through, say, social media and otherwise, they're all fads to a point.
But do you ever remember seeing any of your friends' parents actively being
yes,
what I would consider in shape? Is like, I know that I take my fitness seriously, and the people I surround myself with do the same. I can vividly recall none of my friends' parents ever being into fitness or exercise or going to the gym, and it's like that,
it wasn't as much going to the gym.
I mean, that would have been the early 90s, early to mid 90s of my generation growing up in grade school and stuff. Is like, I see a lot of parents my age who look well, who look in shape, who look fit, who take that seriously, who eat well, who shop with a conscience.
Yeah.
I felt like more of my parents' generation was just I don't want to say getting by, but it was the ease of access. It was
the age of it. The 80s and the 90s, I think, was the big push for you've made it. If you can, live in the suburbs for the most part, and have a family and be able to do that. Like that was the beginning of, like, say 90s, maybe it's pushing past that, but it was like you had VHS tapes, in the 80s and into the early 90s where like at home workouts, because you don't go to the gym because you don't have time. So let me sell you something where you can do it in your living room.
A lot of QVC.
What was that? Christy Brinkley had one back in the 80s.
Chuck Norris and the Total Gym.
Well, that was a little bit later.
That was the 90s, though. Yeah. But it was like, it was like you don't need to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Because gyms, and we've talked about it even in recent days. I mean, Sean, you shared a story of a friend where it's like it's intimidating to go to the gym. So it's like, for you to do that, you're leaving the household, you can't be available for the kids, you can't make the dinner, all that stuff. So you introduce the microwaves on top of that. I mean, all of it was trying to maximize your time and for cheap.
But just like look at a concept like the TV dinner.
Mm-hmm.
They still make those? Can you go buy the tray that you peel?
Yeah.
See, and that's something that I'm just like completely naive to, because I try to pride myself on making something quality for my children, because I don't want them to rely on that ease. Like I want them to understand myself or my wife made this meal from XYZ, and this is something good that you put in your body.
They even marketed that with like HelloFresh, where I'm not even going to make your shit. I'm going to
just send you the ingredients only,
you still have to do it.
And I think that's a decent thing, like Butcher Box or.
But you look at that translation from the 80s, 90s. Is to your point, that it's great that it's kind of, there's been a little bit of a rebellion on that, because I mean that was the whole thing. It's like your parents did it this way, so now it's like going that way. The issue is I think the food got worse and worse.
Absolutely.
So, and more expensive. It's not as cheap as it was. So now you're competing against that, right? But when you have time, when you don't have the time, when you have, whether you're you're a single dad, now you're like struggling to do all this stuff.
Ease of access.
Like I mean, like do I have time for that, or am I saying, all right, we're doing Easy Mac tonight, or I'm gonna mix some mac and cheese, I'm gonna do pastaroni, I'm gonna do all this shit that's not good for you. Tastes great for the kids and all that stuff, but there's no nutritional value really at all. I mean, there is a lacking part of that. We've seen the transition. I see like fads and everything like that. Like, I mean, organic, for example, you go back maybe 10 years ago, and organic is what you were talking about. That was the fad at the time, was the organic. People like, is it organic? And it's like, do you even know what that means?
Now there's stores like just dedicated to that type of product.
But organic is a self-certifying thing. I mean, it doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then you look at things that, like, say, the government classifies as like, USDA choice and all that stuff. It's like, that's just to hopefully protect you. Like, it doesn't mean that it's grass-fed. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it's just that this isn't going to kill you, hopefully, is basically what that means, to a point. I mean, really, in my opinion, that's what it means. It should be quality enough that you're going to have some sort of nutrition off of this, and you won't die.
Do you guys know, or do you have any friends, or do you personally seek out maybe farm fresh eggs, or
so
is there local farmers markets that you guys can get corn or anything like that from here? I mean, there's
that bottle there.
So we actually have a couple that comes into Carfagna's. They're in our wine club, and they have a bunch of chickens and ducks, and those things are laying eggs all the time. And this past weekend, my wife and I got, I think, 4 dozen eggs off of them, and we pay them for a dozen about the same that you're getting at a grocery store.
But and you trust like where that's coming from, and that sense of
I know how they were I know how they were raised. I know what they were feeding off of. I know nothing was sprayed near them.
You hope not.
And
right?
I've compared their eggs to store-bought eggs, and you can see a color difference of the yolks and stuff like that. Plus being coming straight from the chicken or from the duck, they're more shelf stable. They'll last longer, even in a fridge. They'll last.
They tell you not to put them in the fridge just because they haven't been chilled yet.
Well, because they haven't been washed to take off that protective coating. That's why store-bought eggs go bad so quickly, is because the protective coating's been washed off. That's why they all look the same color. But I can sit there and open a carton of eggs from them and have 4 different colors in that carton.
That's a marketing thing. It's a business thing.
Oh,
Sean asked, "Do you taste any difference?" He's not talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, the oomph of flavor that you get from those compared to a store one.
And I think that's a good like kind of mix because you're still not doing shit. Like you're buying it, right? So you're choosing the source. You know what I mean? So that is something that if you have that ability to do that, that's great.
I guess this conversation kind of goes back towards maybe the support of local.
They all got ran out.
I know they
That's
did, but
the
I
whole
feel
thing.
like there's a slow progression coming back towards that. I feel like there's a lot of people that want to go buy half a cow. They don't want to go to the store every 2 weeks and buy,
There are a
10
lot. I
pounds
would
of ground
call it the
beef and
majority.
5 steaks. I'm not saying the majority.
Yeah,
No, I think there is a following though
Yeah.
of self-conscious or just conscious people in, like I said, in our age bracket that are consciously seeking out maybe a way to get more of a direct from the source product.
I can guarantee you right now, if my wife and I had the land to be able to do it, my wife would be at home raising cows right now, and that she would be rotationally grazing cows.
Can you afford that? Would you be able to afford that lifestyle? Because I've got a comment here. I think is what we were talking about, which is from Kristen. Part of the need for TV dinners is women working full-time jobs being the breadwinners on some families, especially these days, more now than in the 50s, 60s, et cetera. But I mean, that was that kind of departure from what we were talking about. So like not attacking like you and Jess, but it's like, can most people say, oh yeah, we've had the land and all that stuff. It's like, okay, can you sustain that?
And that's where
as
I
a
say
family,
like,
because a lot of times it's not.
Yeah, buying that half a cow kind of allows you to have more of a surplus, knowing directly where it came from. You go grab a steak or a burger meat or a roast, and you're stocked up in your deep freezer for, let's say, 6 months. That's a conscious decision to, one, support a local person who is growing that cow, not wherever the other stores get them. But same with the chickens. Like, you're choosing to support a local person that is raising these chickens. I like that. I like feeling like I'm contributing to the small business owner. And I think we are kind of going away maybe from the Walmarts and stuff when it comes to maybe some of that. Not everything. There is ease of access at Walmart and Kroger and Giant Eagle and all that. But I would say your core dinner, lunch items, maybe some of the chickens, maybe some of the eggs, maybe some of the ground beefs. I get a lot of deer meat. Mm-hmm. My wife's brother gives us deer meat. I get deer meat from friends who hunt, and I'm more than happy to feed my children that meat because it's lean and it's healthy and it's like delicious. That comes straight from the source. Whether it's jerky, steak, burger meat. I've
never seen a recall on deer,
right? So, and this is just like a personal opinion. I think some of the people in our generation are, whether it's social media influenced or not, they don't want to support, like I said, the Giant Eagles and the Krogers of the world when they can support maybe a friend who just got a deer, maybe a family member who has 10 chickens and they can give them eggs, maybe somebody they know has bees and they can get natural honey. Like, I know my wife has pulled the curtain back on those, at least those specific items, not everything we do in life, but those specific items, especially when you have kids that are my kids' age, 4 and under. I feel so much better giving them a farm fresh egg that I know from the source where it came from. And like you said, there's a taste, there's a color, there's a quality to that product that I feel so much better putting in my kid's body, and that goes for the deer meat. Like, my son loves deer meat and he's 2 years old and he doesn't know any better, but I know that is lean, fresh meat.
It is.
We will always have the Walmarts and the Krogers and the Giant Eagles and the Acmes to go get some of those items, like you said, the Easy Mac, and it's good to have those things because kids should enjoy the Easy Macs of the world and the Oreos and stuff like that. But I do feel like there is more of a consciousness from, like I said, maybe it's these late 80s, early 80s babies who got to experience a couple of different transitions in the way in which we get our products. And I think there's kind of, we're going back. We're going back a little bit.
I think there's a little bit of a movement for that. I think there's always a back and forth with it. I mean, the truth of the matter is, in my opinion, is that there's all the big chains is, they're the devil and all that stuff, but how many jobs that they provide?
Walmart probably.
We've grown so fast that it's tough to do that. Like, the farmers are in a sense, trying to provide for, in this country, 330 million people. And that's hard to do with your farmers markets. It just doesn't work that way. There's too many
There's always
people,
going to be people that
especially in the more developed areas. And then you figure if you want to get into that conversation, then you look at just even like I'm not saying, not Ray, calm down before I say it. You look at like when there's a national vote. I mean, there's a certain mindset in the highly populated cities and everything like that don't necessarily coincide with the smaller rural areas where there are back to a lot more of that. But then when something happens where there's a trend or something like that happens in the cities, they want all that stuff. They want the farmers market and all that stuff. It's like, just logistically and just from based on a population standpoint, that doesn't work. You have to find some sort of a medium there where no, you can buy from hopefully a chain in your urban area,
get something quality.
That is something that is quality sourced, and it's not something that in this country that the FDA has approved as okay for you. Because we all know that, I mean, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox here, but it's like, it's business oriented. The whole food pyramid is bullshit, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff, and again, before Ray or anyone else goes off on this stuff, a lot of the stuff that the current, like RFK, Junior, like you can say what you will about him, but when you look at a lot of things that he's trying to eliminate from the diet and from the American public has already been done in Europe. But because he's part of Trump's gang, it's like he's a fucking asshole that he's just, the fact that, I mean, I'm not trying to go on this tangent, but it's like anything that he says, it's like, no, fuck that guy. And you're like, but if this was part of the previous administration, they were trying to remove the dyes and they're trying to remove like the high fructose corn syrup. They're trying to remove all these, in a sense, poisons that have been doing everything and just still trying to go to the masses. If it wasn't him and it wasn't this administration, there's a lot of people that'd be like, that's a great idea. Yeah. So a lot of times I think we deal with that as you get a bigger population, it becomes political because behind the politics is the business. And behind that, obviously the money drives everything. So it is, I would agree with you that just like when the organic craze was going on, it's kind of like organic. It's like the same thing as someone that's vegan, same person that's CrossFit. It's like, how do you know that someone does CrossFit? They're going to tell you. How do you know someone eats organic? They're going to tell you. It's that kind of bullshit that it's like, okay, but like, how is that sustainable for even in this country, over 300 million people? It's there. I like what you're saying, that there is a movement back towards that, but there always is. And I think that if there's a way that on a small, because that's the way it was in like hundreds of years ago, when it was tribal, it's like you had to take care of yourself. You had a farmer or, a farming community that was providing for the rest of the community. You had the hunters, you had people that were doing certain things. As that population grows, it's harder and harder to sustain that. And as one population merges into another population, it's like, who has the power and who has all that stuff? It's like, yes, it'd be great if we all could like have our own chickens and stuff like that. But it's like, they're all going to fucking die because everyone has to be at work. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a community sense that something has to work as a society to make this worthwhile. And I think the biggest thing that is, if the movement that you're talking about in this demographic of the 30s and 40s, especially, if that were to translate to a bigger picture as a whole, I think that's something that, how do you, as a community, as a society, as a country, or even internationally, how do you make that work from a business standpoint that people are still making money and still having jobs? You know what I mean? How do you do that? Because we don't have like the rural areas across the country. They're getting smaller, and yet you have to protect those lands so that we can actually provide this stuff. So it's kind of like you want this, but then you want this lifestyle. You want it to be easy. You want to be able to buy eggs from a friend or buy deer meat from a friend or a local place, but you rely on them to now do it. Now, how soon do you tell 10 friends that are now trying to buy that, and this friend's like, dude, I don't have any more. I already sold it. Now you're like, well, fuck, now I got to go back to Kroger, and
or you got to get out to the forest.
Yeah, you got to go find a tree stand.
I just, it's great. And Ray says, there it is. You're consuming some of the most poisonous food in the developed world in the U.S., which, to my point of what you're seeing now, is that you're trying to see it. some elimination of some of the additives and the colorings and the preservatives that are in a lot of the foods, even the health foods. I mean, that's the thing is you have to look at, bless you, you have to look at that. I mean, that's a lot. You can't just turn the ship, 180 degrees on a dime and be like, all right, tomorrow we're going to be eating healthy. There's a lot of moving parts. And it is political. There's a lot of lobbyists.
Well, I think when you bring up the food dyes, that's not a drastic change, because the same plant in the US that's making cereal for Canada without the food dyes is making it
for us,
for the US with the food dyes.
People are supplied with jobs for all those additives and the colorings.
Do what?
There's a lot of jobs and people that are involved in the business of selling those and developing and manufacturing those colors and food dyes.
Chemicals.
Yes, but a lot of people are employed doing that. So it is a hard turn to do, in my opinion.
But from a manufacturing standpoint, it's not. That's what I was saying.
So if you stop making all those products, how many people?
They're still making the product. They're still making.
Stop making the additives, doing all those processes. That doesn't just happen.
Yeah,
there are people doing it. That's where I'm saying it is a slower turning of the ship that you have to somehow do that. It's just like the same thing.
That person,
in a matter of like eliminating jobs, where it's like, oh, we have the go into the technology side. As soon as this continues to go on, I was just at Kroger today, and it's like there's one cashier,
and you're checking your own.
And you're checking yourself out. It's not efficient. There's not enough self checkouts, but they can afford to do more. And then it's like, well, what about all the people that lost their jobs doing that? I mean, it's like you do it. It's like, hey, we have the fix for this, but how do we do it so everyone can survive and have
that's where I think
a way of living? How do you afford the food?
I think we were overstaffed as a whole in giving those people positions and titles and jobs to do that stuff. And now it is a harsh truth to pull some of that back and remove those items from the things that we consume.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no offense to anybody who has those jobs. Obviously they worked hard to get to where they are, but like I said, I don't know if this is my fatherly instincts coming out, but I want to provide consumption to my kids that for the most part is as good as it can be for them. Like I said, I want them to enjoy life, Oreos and ice cream and those types of things. And, we know that stuff is terrible, but at the end of the day, like I do feel a little bit better about consuming some items that I can say that I got from the little man, if that makes sense. I still go to Giant Eagle. I shop at Sam's Club. I mean, you get the stuff in bulk because it is the ease of access, and you can only go there once every 2 weeks and have enough for all that. But
and that's what I like about where Jess and I get all of our meats from. We get it from one of two places. One is a store in Plain City, kind of Amish country, that gets all of their stuff from local Amish farmers. All the meats, cheeses, everything comes from local farms. But then even where I work, all the meats and stuff that we get, a lot of it is Ohio raised cattle from smaller farms in Ohio. Or sometimes we are getting meat from other countries, but it's smaller operations. It's not the same places that are supplying food to your big chains. And so we like the ability to be able to go there, even if we have to pay $1 more a pound. It's like we know what we're getting because the quality, because the way the animal was raised and stuff like that. It's just something we feel better about physically as well as morally about what we're supporting as well as what we're putting into our bodies.
The irony now is, you're talking about that, the prices at the big chains have now matched the local ones, in my opinion, from my experience. Well, even from we'll shop at Whole Foods, which is a big chain in a different light, but it's like everyone's like, oh, that's so much more expensive. It's like, when was the last time you were at Whole Foods?
Mm-hmm.
It's at the same or cheaper than a Kroger, a Giant Eagle, or whatever your local farm or your local grocery stores are. I mean, it's leveled out.
When Walmart's first came out, people when Walmart moves into a town, people love going to Walmart because they have so many things. What a lot of people don't realize, when Walmart first opens a location, they will intentionally set their prices below every other market in that area. They
Draw
will
people
they
in.
will intentionally take a loss on their stuff year over year just to drive out those smaller businesses, because then once they drive them out, they raise all their prices up.
Well, they
but
can
now
do
there's
it.
but now there's no more options.
So they can do it. They're not. I don't know the numbers, but I would imagine that you're not really taking a big loss because when you have that buying power,
They have the buying power, but
so
they
can
also
lower their prices.
but they also have income from how many hundreds of locations everywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
So they can
they're not really
support
taking a loss. You're right, but I'm saying like that you can, when you buy in that, just like anything, you buy in bulk, typically you get a better price.
Yeah.
So I mean that's going to be a numbers game there. Here's a concept here with the exercise, with the everything that you're talking about, David. The exercise, the where do you shop, everything like that. Talking about like the FDA and stuff like that. One of the nice things, if you believe it as fact, one of the nice things about the FDA and some of the laws we have in this country is you are required to not only put nutritional facts on there, but also put the ingredients. The information is there. You go to a
For you to
farmer's
make a
market, there's
decision.
no ingredients, there's
Sure.
no, like, because you're just like, yeah, it's just, that's what it is. And you're in a sense blindly, if you don't know the person, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I trust you, you're not using pesticides, I trust you, you're doing this in a good way, you're not abusing your chickens, you're not abusing your animals, you're not putting shit on your gardens and stuff like that. The one nice thing about in this country is that there is, to a point, again, if you took it at face value, there is full disclosure. The knowledge is out there on how you can be healthier, on how you can shop healthier, even if it's not as healthy as it could be. But when you look at an ingredient list of, say, a snack food, you said like Oreos or whatever, like cookies,
Chips, whatever.
chips, great example, chips. You look at it and you're like, all right, I look at this ingredient list and it's this big and I can't pronounce anything. And then I look at this ingredient list and it's this big and I can pronounce everything. For a long time, before COVID years, the one with smaller ingredient list that you can pronounce everything had a much larger price tag. And the ones that had the larger list of the shit you can't say, it's not Latin, it's just a bunch of fucking like, technical chemical terms and all that stuff. The price tag was much cheaper and it was a name brand. It's what you recognize. And a lot of times it tasted better. It just did. They know they messed with it, like they know how but now I feel like the prices once again have leveled out, but people still say, where the marketing is by brand name. So you have this contradiction or this combating movements of like, I only buy non-brand name
And ironically
items,
enough,
or
a
I
lot of
buy
those brands
only.
own the
Mhm.
counterpart.
And there's the big one. Is that
So-
they own or they snatch them up.
Yeah.
That's an industry. So what is the real fix then?
Yeah.
Like, what is the movement there? Like, is it worthwhile? Or like, why are people still, when they have all the information and say the prices are the same, why are people choosing to not exercise? Why are people choosing to eat the shit that they eat? And why are they choosing? If you want to give the US a little bit of a pat on the back, is like, hey, we require you to put this. Like, you could literally put this on there. And it's like, in other countries, they're like, no, we don't put it on there. We don't put it in there because it's not good for you. And in our country, you're like, it's not good for you. We put it on there, but goddamn, that tastes good.
Yeah.
It's up to you to figure it out and do your own homework.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I mean, Doritos taste better than any Whole Foods chip that's going to be.
We
a
were just talking
comparison,
about fucking cleaners, man. Like
Yeah.
Kristen was saying, she's like, I try to buy the natural cleaners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I always talk about it too. Like, even like a window cleaner, you're like, oh, this is, ammonia free. This is good stuff. And I was like, fuck, man, Windex is the best out there. I challenge you to find me a window cleaner that's better than Windex. I challenge you, like Dawn
We went the
works
route
way
of,
better. That's what Kristen was saying. She's like, I keep going back to Dawn for some of the stuff because I put that on there. Shit comes right off. I put the natural one on there and I'm like, well, I'll come back in 3 days. You know what I mean? Because eventually this will work. You know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of the food that you can get that's healthier, they put that out there for you. And even working out and doing stuff like you mentioned earlier, David, that there's a lot more exercise videos online. There's more. Now I'm getting all these military workout things on Facebook now, and they have products out there. And I'm just as bad as any other. I've bought some shit that I thought would would help or work, and half the time I don't even fucking use it. And I'm lazy. I don't always do the things I've set out to do. I work on it, I try, but I don't. But it's easier to, you know, I always think about what can I make that's going to be easy to make that's good for you. And I've been doing, you know, chicken thighs on the grill and some vegetables and stuff like that, and that's been great. But it's right now, like, it seems like everything out there is they're trying to just give it to you on a platter. Like, I was on Zepbound for a while, and they took it off because insurance, and I'm okay with that now because it taught me to be more conscious of what I eat and how often I eat and stuff, and it kind of became like a natural thing. And like, you know, after you do 20 days, it becomes a habit or whatever. But that really helped. But then there's things like working out where I'm like, and I had this black and white thinking too, like, well, if I got to work out, I got to fucking do P90X every day. I got to eat clean. And then one day I miss a workout or I don't eat right. Well, fuck it. I ruined it. And then it's like back to, all right, what's a quick fix? And so it's a never ending cycle, at least for me. And I'm sure people, that's why there's such a huge market for all that shit. So anyway, I was just sharing.
I think, no, to that point, I just had that conversation with Josh at work, Sean, is that, you know, we're talking about some of the health stuff and some of the things that you can get into. There is a thought process that you want to do whatever you want and have a quick fix for it. But sometimes there is in my opinion, there is the science and the research behind a lot of the things that you can take. For example, like a Zepbound or a semaglutide that you can take under supervision, if you will, or a doctor's order, that is based on research and not just take more of it, abuse it, all that stuff. I mean, that's where a lot, I think, the pharmaceuticals, besides, you know, what Ray was saying, it's like there's a lot of the pharma does run a lot, but there's also a lot of research behind stuff that is maybe not FDA approved, or as it does become FDA approved, now all of a sudden there's more, you know, there's some more money behind it. And then there's a chance to abuse it.
Yeah.
Where there's always a chance to abuse it. But I mean, I think that you can't negate. I was talking with Josh at work. You guys never met him on this show, but you know, he's kind of at that. He works hard. He tries to do everything he can. And he finally went to a doctor after, you know, whatever it was, 17 years. And he's 51 years old. And he finally does a physical. And I'm like, oh yeah, like what were your test levels at? He's like, I didn't do that test. I was like, oh, why not? It's like, I think I'm good. And I'm like, so like there's certain things like you might be like, it's like you kind of make that first step. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to get on tests. I'm like, okay, no one's saying you have to, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not saying it's just like while you're taking these, like there is enough, like do one more, like, hey, can you also, while you got my blood coming out of me, like test it for this?
Sure.
I think there's a lot of things that like there are advancements in some of the science part of it, which is going away from like the farmer's market type stuff. You know what I mean? Like there is some,
it goes into like the health as a whole.
well, there's health, but I mean, you know, and like the GMOs, it's all bad and everything like that. But it's like, I think even that was taken to the extremes. There is a point where you have to feed a population that physically you can't, unless you start using the advancements of
preservation
our
of those,
species that we've done it, where it's like, hey, you can do some GMOs and it'll help you like get a little bit more yield of these things. And so then obviously the business gets behind it, the money gets behind it. You're like, pump that shit full of it.
Yeah.
I need all of it. Like how like we only know that this much will do it and it'll help us. And you're like, times 10, man.
Yeah.
Can we do it exponentially? Like let's go. You know, I think there is something to be said with on the health side. There is some pharmaceuticals. There's some even like I'm not gonna go on this tangent too far, but like the peptides and stuff like that are coming out, like a semaglutide that's been out for a long time. That's now Ozempic and now it's being abused and now it's a problem. But when it was behind closed doors of the public, it's like, no, it's been studied for decades.
Yeah.
And it's simply literally amino acids that are put together to have a certain effect on the body. And that's what they were doing from a science level. And the research is there. And it's not necessarily a quick fix. This is something that it's an anti-aging effort that we can hopefully live longer if we can.
And one thing that they noticed too, when I was on it and they took my blood, that lowered my triglycerides, probably because of eating better. Because I a lot more conscious. Like I said, it really helped me. The one thing that bugs me about it though is like they're throwing this out there, and now you're seeing shit on Facebook where you can get it from anybody, and you can get these shipments of the exact same, but then it's like you see the bottle, it's a clear bottle, and there's no labels on it. It's supposedly Zepbound, and I would never get that shit or whatever. But then the insurances don't have the insurances. Like that's the story. It's like it's all out there, but you can never afford it. And when you said everyone's going crazy to the nth degree, I always think of the episode of South Park. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, never big South Park. I think I align with a lot of what they make fun of. But
they did
just everything.
The Ozempic, and like they were like these women would get together and like steal them, and they would have these, these like they were
Ozempic parties or something.
Yeah, and then it would be like they'd find out a place had it on sale, and then they all would go to the store, be lined up. You know how they spin it, but it's accurate though. Everyone's going apeshit over it. So that's all.
Good luck, man. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Isn't the active ingredient in Ozempic Gila monster venom?
Not to my knowledge. What was that? I don't even. Is that a joke?
Snake oil?
No. Like there's a black box warning on it if you look at it.
It's what oil? What did you say?
Gila, Gila. That it's like it's a reptile.
Okay.
Giant ass lizard. One of those that if it bites an animal, like the animal will die within a few days because of the.
Not to my knowledge.
Mm.
Not to my knowledge. I'll have to send you some peptide stuff so you can actually. They usually will break it down from like what's it like? H2O is what do you call that? Like the
chemical formula.
Correct.
Periodic table.
Well, I mean that's what a lot of the peptides are. Like they'll actually break it down on what that is put together. It's different. It is usually amino acids. Ray, you said I suggested that those countries simply don't show them on the labeling. I did not mean that if it came across that way. I meant those countries actually aren't putting that stuff in there. That was the difference. Like
tobacco.
We're putting it on there and people are still buying it. The other countries have taken movements to not be allowed to put that in there. They're still hopefully being true on what's in those ingredient lists. They're not putting it in there. They're simple as like Coca-Cola. It's like, we have high fructose corn syrup according to Mexico.
Yeah, they have the straight cane sugar.
Cane sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar's not. Supposedly, cane sugar is better for you. It's not good for you, but it's better for you than
because it's natural.
Right.
You're not making it in a test tube or whatever. I mean,
we're all over the place here.
Yeah, from a health standpoint, I mean, like I said, I see some of my generation. I think with the help or with the influence of social media, you might latch onto a person or persons or brand or company or whatever it may be to use that as motivation to maybe live a certain lifestyle. And that wasn't a thing in years past. You like you said, you had the VHS tapes that had Suzanne Summers. You had some, you had some influence of exercise. You had some influence but a lot of those commercials back in the day were Wendy's and McDonald's and Taco Bell and these
Still
up and coming, that's what's pushed on TV. And I think what's pushed, at least maybe in the brands or the people that I follow, is more of that home style or small business lifestyle. And this, like I said, I was going to go back to maybe being a father and trying to find the best alternative to whatever it is that you're looking for from a nutritional standpoint. I know a lot of guys my age that like are super into like the Traeger, like Traeger this, Traeger that, smoke this, smoke that. They're getting
now it's Blackstone.
Yeah, now it's Blackstone. So it's getting these big meals.
All the Traegers are collecting dust like total gems.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my point. But I said the Traegers are collecting dust like total gems.
Yeah. All the Billy
same
Blanks,
shit, man.
All the Billy Blanks equipment is gone.
I mean, that was the whole thing, though. It's like I think I'm not going to give you advice, for you as a father, because I'm not a father, but as a person, it's always you buy the equipment, you buy the whatever. You can buy a Traeger, you can buy a Blackstone, and you use it. That is a great analogy, in my opinion. All these dudes, mainly. Not going to take it away from females. All these dudes were watching these social media things about the Blackstones. Like, yeah, man, like I got the Blackstone. It's like, oh man, I can get all this stuff and all this stuff. And it's like, you talk to him 6 months later. I'm like, so what have you been making on that? He's like, so we started, doing DoorDash more. We got busy. Like the Blackstones and the Traegers for a lot of people, like a lot of dudes, those are the total gyms.
What I'm saying is like,
if that was inside, that's where you're hanging your laundry to dry. Like
But I see
was in the
more of an
movie
effort
industry.
towards I'm going to come over to your house and you're going to smoke 50 wings versus like let's get
I
Domino's. At
agree.
least in my circle.
And that's good.
And
And
that's
I
what
hope that stays.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing. That's what I was saying is like the advice. I'm not going to say what you say to your kids, but as just like to people, it's like, yeah, get the knowledge, and then the biggest hurdle, just like the home gyms and
just continue. It's that,
you have to do it, like, you know. And I mean, I struggle with that. Everyone struggles with that. I think there's a part that one of the things that it's still, we have different levels of it, but one of the things, like you talk about the 80s and 90s and even before that, there was less transparency. The way you look, the way, like, you know, you talk about like the fitness, you talk about people that eat, like they look healthy. Even more so now, there's a little bit more transparency behind, like in Hollywood and behind like
athletes and
just even in general, like if you have the means to do so, you can
you
look better.
Like a guy like LeBron who drops $1 million on his body every year, and it's like we would never be at that level. But
it's ironic. Like Kristen even watched like these like Instagram reels where it's like a plastic surgeon like this, like picking apart like someone's you didn't think in Hollywood that had a facelift and all. This is how you know. And she's like, oh yeah, like this is, and she's not like critical about it, but she's like watching these things, and she's like, can you believe it? It's like, yeah, they're in Hollywood. They're 60 years old. Like they look great. It doesn't look bad. It looks like sure. I mean, you know, I think that if Brad Pitt didn't get a facelift and didn't do all this shit, it's like he wouldn't be getting the roles that he's getting because he doesn't look like Brad Pitt anymore. You know, and I think he looks great. But there's the people that abuse it, and there's reality shows about that. You have the Kardashians, and it's like everyone dogs them, and it's like they are billionaires because they have done all this stuff. You can talk bad about all you want, and then you have people. I was watching, I forget the actor's name, Frank Grillo. Yeah. He's just on a podcast. And he's like, look, I'm on TRT, and I spend a lot of money on food. I spend a lot of money, like I do all this stuff. But he's like, he's not necessarily. He's like, I'm an actor.
Yeah, look at a guy like The Rock.
Yeah, I mean, but he's like, I'm an actor. He's like, I'm not competing in professional sports. Like this isn't bad. I'm on TRT. I eat healthy. I work out every day. I bust my ass. I'm an actor. I want to get hired. This is my job. I want to stay healthy. And you go back to the 80s, 90s, no one was talking about it. No. You weren't allowed to.
There, but
it was like you're like you were demonized because you were doing these things to look different at you as you're 40, 50, 60. You know what I mean? And diet and all that stuff can only go so far, but you're constantly battling, I think, with keeping up.
Yeah. When Stallone reprised his role as either Rocky or Rambo, and he comes in all jacked, everyone's like, "Holy shit, he got in shape for this movie." He's like, and he goes, "Yeah, I fucking was on steroids. I was on steroids. I'm not gonna lie about it. I was on steroids."
I mean, it's just to circle back to generation to the next. I guess my main point is that I feel like somewhat of our generation takes a little bit of pride maybe in being a little more conscious, whether it's with food or exercise or just overall wellness as a person, you know, your own mental health, all that stuff. It's talked about more now. There's all kinds of pages and different people and stuff you can follow. And I think with social media, that has made it a little more acceptable, like you said, where it was kind of behind the curtain in the earlier times where there wasn't all these outlets. There wasn't all these people you could go to and see that this is their experience. I experienced that too. So from, like I said, my parents' generation to mine, there's been a shift, I would say. All the things are still there, the Walmarts and all that stuff. But as a young parent, as a person who's starting their family, as a person who's always been into fitness, whether it was from a sporting aspect or just overall general wellness as a person. And, you know, we smoke cigars, we enjoy bourbon. We're not getting away from that, but
Lovelace talks about being healthier while we're doing this.
And that's my point, is like, we are human beings. We're going to enjoy some of the
sit in the suburbs. In the
yep. Exactly. So, but like I said, I feel positive, and I feel good about seeing the people around me at least making a conscious effort to do what they can or do their part in taking care of their families and giving their families, the best opportunities for different consumption of whatever food it may be. And like I said, I use my sister as an example. They have cows, they have, vegetables of various different kinds. They're totally on the whole other side of the state. They're in like northwestern Ohio where it is rural and they can have the land to do X, Y, Z. And I am lucky enough to have that outlet to get these items. But like I said, I also have people that hunt deer and stuff. And you can make a conscious decision to say, yeah, that's great. You got a deer. Okay, cool. To say like, okay, I wouldn't mind having a few steaks or a few burgers or whatever it is. I think people our age are making those conscious decisions to partake in supporting that as much as
I think you're surrounding yourself with a good circle of people, which is a big part of it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Nate,
do you have anything with this? I think you're surrounding yourself with a good circle. That's a big part of it. I mean, and you're in a good place, to my knowledge. You're in a good place in your life with your family and everything else, and health's good. It always gets tricky as things get a little bit more muddy waters.
And people can choose to live their lives how they can, and sure. I can appreciate that. Like, you do what you can for your own family.
But you go through like the ups and downs and health and stress and family and everything else. I think when you can concentrate on it better, it's easier at times. It still takes effort, but I think the effort really kicks in when it's that long road. When you have the obstacles, it's how do you translate that to your kids? So like, this is you now, but then educating, like, this is how you do it as you get older. I'm not like, it doesn't show up on your table. Like at 4 years old, it shows up on your table. Like, you don't have,
and we were never
the ability to do this stuff. You know what I mean? But as you get older, it's the training. There's a lot of things that I am thankful that my parents did teach me. And there are things that as I've grown older, I wish they would have taught me. And that's not against them. It's just, I wish I had learned skills at a younger age that other people had learned. And that's on me as well, not to learn them now, but it's like, it's just how you're brought up. That's this generation to the next. It's how do you get that really instilled to them so that when they're teenagers, when they're in their 20s, when they're in your age bracket, are they still doing this?
I will tell you this. We sat down for dinner.
Out.
We sat down for dinner every night in my house, and it was home cooked meals. So if nothing else, like, that has been passed down from my parents to me, is my kids will have home cooked meals. We're going to sit down for dinner.
Good.
We're going to do that part. And my parents let us have some of these quick meals of the McDonald's and that type of stuff, which you always do as a kid. But at the core, it was, we sit down for dinner, we eat dinner as a family, mom or dad is cooking. And that was breakfast too, more so breakfast for my dad and more so dinner for my mom. But like, that will be passed to my kids. Like, I enjoy cooking. My wife enjoys cooking. If we can sit down as a family, that is generation to the next. And I think this younger generation is going away from that. I see some cousins. I see some cousins. I see some nephews. I see some other younger generations where it's like, oh, you go grab your plate, you go eat in this room, and you go grab your plate and you go eat in your room and watch TV.
You go sit in front of this TV, watch what you want. You sit in front of this TV, watch you want.
Family gatherings are becoming.
There are times I make a conscious choice. When I come home and Jess has made dinner, like, to actually sit down at the table instead of just grab my plate and go to a TV. To actually just sit down at the table. That's one of the things I love about Steak and Wine Sunday is, we're not in front of a TV or anything. We have music playing in the background, but we're just sitting there eating our meal, drinking our wine. Jess has the topic cards that we sit there and discuss. Like, it's a whole process. And we're sitting there at the table for almost an hour, eating dinner and then having this conversation. And, that's something that kind of gets lost. Like,
The irony
It's
there
going to be a
is-
weird movie reference, but if you think back to the movie Matilda,
Don't
you know,
know.
where all three of them have their own TV dinner.
Yep, and
They're
TV
all
tray,
sitting on a
yeah.
couch or a recliner. They
TV
got
tray,
the TV tray. They got their dinner on it, and they're all just no one's talking to anyone. They're all just sitting there in front of the TV eating their shitty meal.
Their TV dinner.
Yep.
John.
Yeah, I think the one thing that helps with all of this, and I think for you, especially David, is accountability. And your kids hold you accountable, and you do them. But that I think goes both ways to kind of like, I need to do this so I can instill, positive thoughts and good habits for them to have when they get older. And I think having the family's dinners on the table was same way. It instilled that. Yet still, we don't do it that often, but when we do, it's interesting how much more connected we all become. And it's such a simple thing to do. But the accountability in terms of like whether you're eating, whether it's fitness or whatever, have that someone there just to kind of call you on your shit.
Yeah, hold you.
Yeah. So,
Hold you to it.
yeah.
I think the irony of it though is too, like what you're talking about,
The
What-
earthquake
what-
capital of Ohio.
Nate's talking about, as we've gotten to this point where now it used to be like 80s, 90s, it was, well, this show's about to come on, right?
Because you couldn't record it.
Well, it was also the fact you're apart from each other all day long. You can't talk. You're at school, you're at a job, you're whatever. The irony for me is that we are able to communicate 24/7.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're busy at work, like you can't kick back a text right away,
Yeah.
but you have the ability at some point at most jobs, even if you aren't supposed to, you can look at your phone and text, and you can text back, and you have this communication portal open all the time. And on top of that, we're way past TiVo. We're way past VHS. Most of the stuff that you're sitting in front of the TV watching, you're streaming. It is literally available 24 hours a day at any time.
Yep.
Chris and I, we enjoy it. We sit down, even on steak, we don't do that as much. We'll sit in front of TV. We'll watch a show together because we're like that's our decompressing time. Even on our steak nights, we'll sit in front of the TV. What do you want to watch? You know what I mean? Let's catch up on this movie or show or whatever else. So it's like we choose to do that. But like as a family unit, there was a reason because you're finally getting everyone together to talk a little bit and catch up on it.
Yeah.
And it slowly, I feel like, got to the point where it's like with the TVs and everything else, like, well, so this game's on, or hey, the Wheel of Fortunes, whatever the fuck it was, it's like this is on, like, all right, let's eat in front of the TV. We don't want to miss it. You know
Jeopardy.
what I mean?
Friends
Back
is
here,
on.
Texting is like you've already
Seinfeld.
talked about everything during the day.
Yeah.
You get home.
Oh, no, we
to
were
a
watching
point,
it when they were new.
Yeah, that's something like Chris and I, to your point, it's like, it's like we do talk all the time. Like we have a very open line of communication. So when we get together, it's like we'll have the talk about work, talk about anything else that happened during the day. And it's like now it's like let's just relax together, So I don't think there's a right way to do it. And again, not having kids, it's a different world. But I mean, it's instilling in the fact that it's there is a change in the level of communication, but again, ironically, as people always talk about, is that the more, I still remember when FaceTime was a big thing on the iPhone. And it was like, oh my God, we can video. We're the future's now. And now most people are like, don't FaceTime me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't just text me, man.
I don't know that I've ever initiated a FaceTime.
It's the coolest technology.
Yeah,
I mean, it is so amazing. And obviously it led to the ability to work from home and all that stuff. Like,
because she can see.
Are you kidding me?
First
It's
hand,
amazing.
playing in the yard, whatever. They're doing this right now. I mean, my parents love it. I mean, we FaceTime with nieces and nephews at my sister's house and kids, and everybody's able to see each other. And I converted to the iPhone. Unfortunately, I was a Samsung guy through and through, and it was everybody else in my family had iPhone. We all FaceTime. You got to get on board, and my kids love it. I love to be able to talk to them and see them when I'm on the road, when I'm working, wherever I may be, Pittsburgh, Kentucky, and I can go FaceTime my daughter or son. Like that's nothing better. Nothing better. Couldn't imagine pulling up the rotary phone and dialing and just talking to them at my hotel, if that makes sense. Like
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a change in generations.
Yeah.
I think no matter what we do, the like any answer that the previous generation has, it is typically well intended.
Yeah.
But it's any like the generation before us, they're like, they don't care. They don't
Write a
they
letter and send it.
But no, but like the previous generation made this generation. You know what I mean? Like you look at like the 20-year-olds now, and it's like they're different. Like, you know, Sean's got a teenager, and it's like it's like the 2 generations before made these problems that then that generation blames the kids for this. I mean, this is centuries, if not long. I mean, this is throughout time. This is what happens.
Yeah.
All the advancements that you make and all the things that you think are going to be so amazing, it's like at some point will be abused, will be, you know, taken for granted, and then will also be like, I don't want this.
That makes me
While
think,
they use it.
that makes me think of something my stepfather used to say all the time. What one generation, and you can take this however you want. What one generation allows in moderation, the next generation will practice to excess. So
Without even realizing.
So one generation will create something with a certain goal in mind. That next generation will just absolutely abuse it.
Take it and run with
Yeah.
it.
Like, hey, we created this that way you can, you know, you can talk to your family. You know, we created the phone. You can talk to your family even if you're across the country, and you had to collect calls.
Well,
and then
think about
10 10 3 2 1 or 10
We
10
had
2
tapes,
20 for
and we
long
had
distance
CDs.
calls. Yeah.
And now we have every single song ever in the palm of our hand.
Yeah. What's
Just-
depending on what streaming service you
In
want to
the
use. for
last
the
70
music.
years, the previous generation doesn't understand the current generation, if you will's music, and it's trash. That was rock and roll. That was whatever you call the 70s, rock and roll, classic rock now. It was the 80s, you know what I mean? Like it was like the previous generation doesn't grunge. What is that noise? Heavy metal. Like what is that noise? You know what I mean? And it's like it's all the time. Now we're at the age you listen to the current like stuff now, you're like, what the fuck is that? I mean, it's like none of this is new.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
just
care.
what happens.
Yep.
It's a cycle.
Closing remarks. Anything else, guys? We figure it out.
Well, I think this topic's one of those things where, to David's point, with the kind of in between generation that the three of us are, we grew up in the lifestyle of our parents, and then now we've seen where that's become with the younger generation, and so we sit there and we see what the previous generation was, what the younger generation is, and we're in the middle. We're like, well, which one of these would I rather have? And so I think there to some depend on, and it's not across the board, it's certain aspects of our lives, and that's where our generation is sitting there going, yeah, I think you guys are taking this a little too far. Let's dial it back.
We've gotten too old,
And I
man.
think that old adage is like your parents always want better for you.
Sure.
Being a new parent, directly reflecting on that, I want better for my kids than I personally had. So you're going to do the things that you think are better in the time. And I know my parents did what they thought was the best thing at the time for us. So going back to exactly what you just said is like you have a choice to give your family or give your kids or give them what you think is the best at the time, and hope they make the best decisions. So but yeah, generation to the next, I guess.
Let me ask you, David, do you think that there is, as someone that is in their 40s with no kids, do you think there is a different stigma around how you can be a 30-some-year-old, a 40-something-year-old, a 50-something-year-old, where it is not as frowned upon as the 80s, 90s, or even before that, as being a single, not, I keep pointing to you because you're only, well, Sean, you know, like single parent, let's just say it, like single parent from a, you know, a divorce or something along those lines, or someone that is of a certain age that doesn't have kids.
Yeah, I think it's a
And
lot
there,
more.
there was a point, I think, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even now.
Yeah, you were meant
Once
to
you
go
hit
to school,
2000s,
get a job, get
Right.
married, have kids.
But it's like there not a negative stigma, but it was something that was like now there's a little bit more of an openness to everyone's life has taken a different path.
I think it's that classic family.
But then you have someone like yourself in your 30s and your wife in 30s with kids, and you're socializing more openly, not awkwardly. I think there was a time of single parents.
Well, I was actually the youngest of my group of friends to have kids. I have friends that have 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds,
Sure.
and they're my age.
Sure.
So I got married last. I had kids last. So I'm, still in the infancy stages of the kids and that, but I think there's a lot more acceptance towards people who understand that maybe kids aren't for them. I think that all came from like your grandparents and like their grandparents of like, why aren't you, who are you dating, honey? And when are you gonna have when are you gonna have some grandbaby? Yeah. And it was the stigma more so with the family than it was with society. Like your family's gonna look at you and say, when are you gonna make me some grandbabies?
Sure.
So I think now people are a lot more just open with, listen, if you're happy with your partner, your house, your life, your work, your job, we're happy for you. Sure. And that's, at least in my circle, that's the happiness. Is like, if you're happy doing what you're doing with who you're doing it with, you don't need to be in any certain place with any certain person and have kids to say that you've made it or whatever. So,
sure.
But yeah, I at a time, there was a very brief time where I looked at my life and I was like, wow, all my friends have children, they're married. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids, and I was the same age as all of them. And I wouldn't say I put a timeline on that, but I didn't think it was going to happen. There was a very vivid time where I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I just looked at my life and I was like, I'm okay. This is this is it. I'm doing well. And you want those things. I
Sure.
grew up with a family. I wanted a family. I wanted that. And it happens when it's supposed to, I guess. So, but no, I
think that is possibly, and you and Sean in the garage, anyone else, that's on paper, that's easier as a parent. That's like, hey, you can do whatever you want to be. You can, you don't have to be married. You don't have to follow this path. As a parent from previous generations, the outline of what's supposed to happen as a parent, there was a book on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that things have 20s, opened up more.
Everything was in your early 20s, and now
right.
people are having school and jobs, and they're working.
It's tougher as a parent now because you want to be like, this is how you do it, but then also it's like do it the way that makes sense to you,
versus like the playbook.
And Sean, you're ahead of David on this, but it's like it's got to be intimidating as a parent. But even now in today's world, you're just like, okay, so this was the guidebook that I was raised on. Now I need to just support you and just.
Yeah, I mean, there's
no right answer here. Where it's like us being raised, it's like, all right, so this is what you do. You do this, and then you do this, and then you go to this, and then you get this, and then you do that, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then it's like, and now you're going to be 40 and you got 2.4 kids and a dog and white picket fence, and you made it.
Both myself,
if you don't, you failed. You're like, oh, cool.
My wife's mom was 18 and she had her, and my parents were early 20s. I didn't have a child until I was 34, 33. So that timeline does set in a little bit of like that pressure where you're like, is this going to happen for me? Am I going to make it, so to say? Am I going to have a house?
How did your parents handle that?
Well, my sister got married before I did, and she's 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
Her son is 6 months older than my son. Ironically enough, we had children fairly close, but she got married before I did. And it just, that's how life happened. So,
how do your parents handle that?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. There was no pressure. There was nothing. And, I'd already been dating the girl that I married, and yeah, at the end of the day, it happened how it was supposed to happen. And like you said, there's that playbook that was for so many previous generations where your mom and dad got married, you went to the military per se, you come back, you find a girl, you get married, you have a kid,
Sure.
then he goes to work, she stays at home. I think that model has been just kind of shattered.
And everyone's happy. If they're miserable, you're still happy.
Yeah. But the playbook of
You're allowed.
the
Yeah.
happy American family, I think, is so different now, and people are much more accepting of that crazy uncle you have who's 40 who doesn't have
All
a
right,
wife.
calm down.
And,
Calm
you
down.
know,
All right. Yeah, no.
I'm
Now you're getting personal.
No,
but
No, I
No.
think, yeah, I agree. I think that but I do think there is a little bit of the same respect of what you were saying about like the health, the food and everything like that. There's no right way for your kids to grow up or the next generation to grow up, but it's like, I think that stability to a point, or at least like some goals, is to find happiness and to be healthy and to eat well and to be active and to hopefully, first love yourself, and then maybe if you find someone that you love and they love you back, I think that's the big thing with less pressure. It's the fact that
I think
I'd like to see that your kids grow up in a generation, hopefully, where we're at right now will level out to a point. It's cyclical. It always happens. Everyone thinks that like right now is like the worst time or the best time. But it happens over and over again, historically in this country and other places. But I think this is something that I just hope that there's a little bit more of an acceptance and not bowing down to the extremes on any side of any issue, where it's like, you know what, like,
control what you
this
can
is
control.
what this is. You literally do what we did in like throughout history. Is you literally are like, this is my life, this is what this is what I grew up with, and this is something that I hope for you, and I hope you find it in whatever way you can, and you really kind of preach and instill like that love into that, and the goals and the hard work ethic and all that stuff. It's
Just what I
it's
do,
more
for instance, is
overcomplicated than it should be. in my
so off the
opinion.
beaten path from what my grandparents did, what my parents did. It's like my dad's blue collar, my mom's blue collar, like their grandparents were blue collar, like sister goes to college, gets degrees and everything. I didn't get a degree. It's like, it's just so different, and my parents and my family and my friends are all accepting of that and understand that.
Sure.
And they're happy for what I do. And it's that is part of this generation to the next. It's like, you were probably held to a higher standard in the 50s, 60s, 70s to, if you're not going to college, you're going to the military. If you're not going to the military, you're getting a job. You're going straight to whatever factory or whatever, blue collar, electrician, plumber, carpenter, all that stuff. You're doing that. There's more of a free spirit when it comes to allowing people to develop whatever they think they want to do with their lives now. And that, from generation to generation, I think has changed significantly.
I think that we have, as most things, we have maybe overemphasized to a point of, without the reality of life and survival. You can be whatever you want to be. As a product of the 80s and 90s, there should be a hell of a lot more astronauts. Because when you ask a kid back then, like, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut. And you're like, you can be that.
Yeah.
It's like, you're fucking terrible at math and you are not in shape. It's like, you don't want to tell a kid they can't do something, but I think we've overdone it, where it's like the world is your oyster, but you also need to pay bills. We've lost the practical side of it, is that you need to be able
That's
to
where I think
provide
the next
for
generation
yourself.
is so oblivious to build
that's what our
life, and
parents said.
I guess. But I
think we've finally gotten old on this panel here, boys.
well,
closing comments.
David's the only one of us that doesn't have a gray in his beard.
I dye it just for men.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
You might. That's fine.
It's odd because you have kids.
Nope.
You have kids. I don't have gray hair yet, and I have two. So
Come back to us when you're 40. Yeah.
Oh no.
41. I was just like, whoa.
This gray happened at 30 when I got fired from a dream job. Stress did this one.
That's what they say.
I'm gonna keep it as long as I can.
Anything else, boys?
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you.
Concerto, aging room, available at Tinderbox.
That we do know.
Be on the lookout for other new items from Altadis. Romeo, Monty, H. Upman, Trinidad, Henry Clay, Aging Room,
Vegafina.
Vegafina.
As
Yes,
I'm smoking a little Vegafina right now.
yeah, one of our portfolio brands
All of it.
coming. It's the biggest brand outside of the U.S. So,
Yeah.
but
I want to thank you guys for watching tonight. Hopefully, you guys share it. We'll get better at posting all this stuff. We've got Ryan Venrick from Watershed coming on in 2 weeks with the new fall finishing series.
Cool.
Always a popular thing.
I got that email today about what that one is.
We've got a bottle coming. Yeah. We've got a bottle coming. The
Definitely
lottery
looking forward
open
to that.
today. If you're in the state of Ohio, the first toasted
Yeah.
Watershed bottle coming out. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Still enjoy doing this with you guys. David, thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing the cigars, the whiskey. Between the two of them, I'm still a little Forester 100. I got to be honest with these two. But,
I'll bring some 117 next time and maybe change your mind a little bit. It's only 100 proof. So
only 100 proof. I'm not that light. All right, guys. Cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Guys, be safe. Enjoy. If you're having a nice, warm October start, we will. Yes.
Happy birthday coming up.
Happy birthday to me coming up. You got it.
Yeah. Forget that.
Big 45.
Damn.
What does that mean?
Remember we just turned 40 too long ago.
5 years ago. Cheers, guys.